You know, in trying to do all of that, what comes to mind is an agenda that will almost suit every region and every sector of our national life. And if you were to look at some of these critically, which would you actually put without any form of, should I say, hierarchy of needs or wants? What would you say that we want as a people, irrespective of the region we're from? Because now you just brought in Borno perspective and brought in Lagos. For some, those who says we don't need a high-rise building in Borno or a skyscraper, as you have just opined.
Yes. I think the major thing we all want in this country is peace. Residential rights.
Residential right.
Residential rights. Let me reside in peace. Let me stay in peace. If you look at residential rights, it means that if you send your son to go and do service in Borno State, Boko Haram will not disturb. He has the right to reside there. If he's a trader there, he has the right to reside there. If he's living in Lagos, he has the right to reside here. Now, if...
Doesn't that right exist already?
It is there. Is it being implemented?
How is it supposed to be implemented?
All right. Now, the major threat to that residential right is what is called indigenship. You want to contest election in Lagos, you're reminded you're not a Yoruba man. You're a Yoruba man, they tell you you're from this other state.
Yeah, but do they literally stop you from contesting, or?
Attitude is the first thing. Attitude. Actually, this conference is going to tackle those things which just law alone cannot tackle.
And
in other words,
which amendment to the Constitution cannot solve?
Quick amendment, there's really no need, it's the attitude. Now look at a former governor of Niger State once said, if you have lived in Niger State, we'll make you a citizen. In his mind, he's thinking of you as a foreigner. That syndrome of you're a foreigner, I'm an indigene is part of the problem. People want to move freely, go from here to there, develop where they want. In other words, what obtains in the United States actually is what many of us are also looking forward to. You have lived here 1 year, 2 years, you declare this, nobody harasses you. All the highest they will say is originally from, but all the rights of that area you are entitled and nobody will deny you. In some states you have discriminatory tax policy. If somebody is able to raise it and say, look, this man is paying 100 million for this, I'm being asked to pay 200 million for this, because that's discrimination. It's there in the Constitution, but the spirit of the Constitution is not being implemented.
All right, talk to us about this. I mean, already, Shagun sends a comment through. He says, which law established the conference? If there is none, how will you then enforce its outcome?
You don't need a law to establish a discussion by Mr. President, a consultation. The President of Nigeria, the governor of a state, the chairman of a local government, they have the right to consult their people. In governing or in ruling a country, the president shall continue to consult the people. It's there in the Constitution. So he does not even need a special law. If he decides that what have been decided in the national conference, that he has enough weighty issues, he has a choice. Send it as executive bill to the National Assembly to turn it into law, which aspects he wants. A member can do that. You and I can do that.
So does that mean that the outcome of the conference, after all said and done, will have to be decided upon by the National Assembly? What becomes of it? To
be honest with you, there's no way you can make a law in Nigeria unless you go through the National Assembly. Except one, whereby the president amends an existing act to conform with the Constitution.
What if the National Assembly
Other than that, if the National Assembly says this,
it says no.
There will be elections next year, remember.
Then this would have ended up being a talk shop in the meantime.
No, if we say that there shall be no discrimination, anybody who discriminates shall this and this happen. If this particular National Assembly says we don't want to have anything to do with it, the next one may look at it. But the one mistake you always make is to ignore a conference. In 1994, when Abacha was organizing his own, all kinds of things were said. Some people ignored them, but some things came out of that conference and are still guiding us till today. The only one that had a K-leg was Obasanjo's own, because it ended in disarray when the issue of third term collapsed. Otherwise, the moment everything is decided, the compendium is made and delivered to the right people. It may not be this National Assembly. It may not even be the next one. Maybe another one after. They will look at it. You know, it's a document.
You've said that that for every conference so far, there's been an agenda. And some people will say that most leaders who sit and decide to convene conferences always sometimes want to make some benefit from it. And that it's always up to us to be able to sift, you know, what we think could be inimical to our progress, even though it will be of benefit to the people who have convened the conference, and then go with what will be beneficial to majority of Nigerians. Don't you see, or do you agree with the people who say that in those instances, what we did was threw the baby away with the bathwater? And how do you think, if you do agree, how do you think that will be prevented in this particular conference?
Well, the first thing that actually destroys a conference is when those who are working with you think you have something hidden. That's what happened in 2005. That by the time the issue of third term failed really to scale through, they moved to the National Assembly to amend the Constitution. When they tried to amend the Constitution, it came to the issue of third term, that entire constitutional amendment failed because suddenly their fears were realized. But in this case, nominations through primaries for the political parties will take place this year. In other words, by the time the conference is winding up, almost all the candidates are known. So what advantage are you going to confer on people who already know who are going by the time you submit? By the time the conference delivers its report, Mr. President will be in the campaign field, at least running around for the primaries. So whatever will come out, I believe, is for the future of this country, is where do we stand? Where are we going? Now we are being buffeted by problems from left, right, and center. Let's have a chance to talk. The National Assembly the National Assembly, as far as I see it today, is just polarized between APC, PDP, with their supporting parties. Progress is not being made there right now because the House of Reps sees itself as the vanguard of opposition to Mr. President. The Senate sees itself as a supporter of Mr. President. So let us go there to the national conference from all walks of life.
But that's politics, isn't it?
That's politics, but then you play it to a very dirty and despicable level, as they did in the United States when they nearly brought the economy down. Remember, those who were against Obama made sure that some of those issues that bordered on budget and approvals never came until people screamed.
Did you just say that was dirty?
Oh yeah, it was dirty. There is a limit to what you can do. In other words, don't pull down this house in order to drive out a rat or the occupants. You don't do that. You have to manage the situation, which is what I expect National Assembly.
Because when we talk about manage a situation, some would also argue that it is that word or that attitude that has actually brought us this far. Let's manage the situation, let's not pull anything down, let's not pull the rug off the carpet. And those who perpetrate such know full well that people wouldn't want to pull the rug off their feet, and they stay on that. So how can we, through this conference, bring by a situation whereby laws will be abided? Because now we're talking about what we want to bring forth to us that will bring about the peace, the needed peace you highlighted earlier on. Some will say what we have good enough, you're a lawyer, that what we have in our constitution is enough to drive us as a people and as a nation and give us the best. But people have never for once abided by what is in the constitution.
Yes, you're talking of the spirit of the Constitution and the letter of the Constitution. But before I answer that, Professor Chinachebe, one of the days we visited him in Osaka, he said, part of the problem of this country is that we compromise too much. In other words, we don't stand up for our rights. Being very young, then I didn't say anything. I was just there to learn. Then he wrote the pamphlet, The Trouble with Nigeria. Now, back to the Constitution. People see, it's like when you see a policeman on the road, what does he do? He knows he has authority to do, he knows he ought to do this in a particular way. But he chooses to do it the way he wants and tells you, go to hell. Because he knows that the process of you getting what is due to you is so long that you get frustrated, which is why court system is also in trouble.
Isn't that part of what we should actually have set out to address before even highlighting or while highlighting on this conference?
That's justice. Yeah. The realization of justice in this country, the justice system, that's why I have a column for retired justices. In any case, many of those going there are lawyers. How do I get justice in this country? Do I just go there and say, look, you've slapped me. For me to get justice, it takes 10 years. We have relied on National Judicial Council and the Conference of Judges to find ways. And each time they try, the road becomes busier. So in this conference, we are free to talk. If we want to do away with our present legal system, that is justice advocacy system, all we do is pass it as a resolution. If it passes, it goes to the National Assembly. When they begin to amend the Constitution, they now know which direction they think Nigerians are looking forward to doing. In any case, this is an election year, and there's no legislator who will stand up against this national conference.
Who says?
Because they'll be committing suicide.
Who says?
It's suicide.
They've done worse things than this.
No, this is an election year.
Yeah, but some of them are still in call for cases such as terrorism. They're still in the National Assembly. So what will be different with this one?
But legislators do not joke with the election year. Forget all this gara-gara.
So they can play along now, and then afterwards they go back to their scheme.
If they are re-elected, they can go back to what we fear they will go back to. But for now,
okay.